Osamu was one of the greatest authors in the world, living in Japan during the Middle Ages. Despite his profound loneliness and awkwardness, he fell in love with one of his students and wanted to marry her. Unfortunately, society did not accept their love, and overwhelmed by their sadness, they decided to end their lives and live together in heaven. However, Osamu was transported to a magical world ruled by the Demon King, where his sole aim is to find his beloved, so he can live with her peacefully. This all unfolds so quickly that he can barely grasp it. The only thing he remembers from his previous life is walking in the rain on a gloomy, overcast day and crossing a bridge before resting near the bank of a rapidly flowing river. He recalls looking into his beloved's eyes and tying their hands together with a red string as they prepared to end their lives. But just before they could jump into the river, the bushes behind them started rustling, and a truck appeared, angered that someone wanted to die without its consent. As usual, the truck, known as Truckkuin, ended their lives according to their wish. When Osamu next opens his eyes, he finds himself in a brightly lit cathedral with a Western architectural style. He looks around, wondering if this is heaven, when a voice interrupts, claiming this isn't what heaven looks like. He turns to see a beautiful woman in a blue dress, who introduces herself and, a priestess whose role is to guide heroes through this world. She walks to the window and invites Osamu to join her, and explains that this world is very different from what he knew. Magic dominates the skies and the land, while dragons roam freely. The world is inhabited by magical creatures, such as giants and fire-breathing birds. She tells him that the world is shrouded in darkness and only a hero can restore the light. Osamu remains bewildered as he realizes that, after failing to control even his own death, he has been sent to another world. He grasps his head, feeling weak and ashamed for being unable to decide how he should live or die, and gives him some space and begins to discuss a mission she wants to assign him. However, when she turns around, a bottle of sedatives rolls to her feet. She looks up in horror to see that Osamu has once again attempted to end his life by consuming all the sleeping pills, and quickly uses her staff to heal him with magic, bringing him back to consciousness. Despite this, he appears more irritated than relieved and asks her to stop bothering him, and urges him to get a grip, as he is supposed to be the hero of this world. He shows little interest and continues picking up the pills and eating them one by one. She informs him that he was chosen by Lord Trucken, who sends people extremely unhappy with their past lives to a new world to find happiness. Osamu keeps consuming the pills as if they were candy and then approaches and, telling her that dying with his beloved was the happiest moment of his life, and is astonished as he casually lights a cigarette. She decides to show him his stats, as every person transported to another world typically possesses godlike abilities. To her surprise, he has only 1 GP and is still poisoned. She is perplexed and expands his skill set, hoping to find an overpowered ability to improve his stats, but to her dismay, he has 0 abilities, no magic, and only has cigarettes and matches. Realizing there must have been a mistake, and apologizes to Osamu, saying it's her fault for bringing him here, since he is extremely weak with no skills to defend himself. Osamu stands up and tells, and that being a branded fighter who has always lived in hardship is nothing new to him. He starts to walk away, and insists he stay, warning that he will die the moment he leaves the cathedral due to the dangerous monsters outside. Osamu dismisses her concerns, saying he simply wants a place to die, and continues walking, and is shocked as she reflects on how she used to be excited about her job, but has grown disillusioned after dealing with numerous difficult heroes, like the corporate hero who acted like her manager and criticized her, or the arrogant one who only sought praise. She had become robotic, flattering every hero that came, but this man is different. She chases after him, urging him to at least choose a profession, but Osamu tells her he is a born writer and knows nothing else. After stepping outside, Osamu resumes consuming the sleeping pills when an AI voice in his head tells him he has gained some XP. He tells the voice to stop talking in his head because of his migraines, but to his dismay, a song starts playing while the voice announces he has reached level 2. He feels like dying already when a huge tree falls behind him. He approaches to find a demonic tree capturing a beast girl, who is screaming for help. He looks at her and gets inspired to write, asking if he can base a novel on her. She demands he save her first. He awkwardly tries to help but fails, while the confused girl questions whether he has any sword or magic skills. The tree grabs his throat and lifts him into the air. He struggles to breathe but remains relatively calm, remarking that death is peaceful. The beast girl tells him to stop messing around because the tree drains the life force from its victims, and they will die if they don't act quickly. Osamu, however, seems indifferent as he loses consciousness. To the girl's surprise, the ground shakes and the tree explodes before disintegrating into dust. The girl is baffled, while Osamu, disappointed, realizes he failed to die again. The AI voice informs him that he gained a lot of XP from using the poison to defeat the enemy. The girl then realizes that the tree absorbed the poison from Osamu's body and perished. The voice tells Osamu he is now level 3. He holds his head and lights another cigarette. The girl remarks that he is quite strong, but Osamu is uninterested and sadly notes that this was the 5th time his death wish was not fulfilled. The girl doesn't understand what's troubling him but invites him to her house for some food. She grabs his hand, and suddenly he is reminded of his beloved Satch. He looks at the red thread still on his wrist and wonders if Satch has also been transported to this world. The girl, confused, tells him her name is not Satch, but he doesn't seem to hear her. He gets up and walks away with a smile on his face. The girl chases after him, asking where he's going, while he keeps repeating Satch's name, thinking he may have found a new reason to live in this strange, magical world. Osamu reflects on the moments leading up to their deaths and promises to find Satch wherever she may be in this world. He decides that once he locates her, they will end their lives together as they had planned. He heads back to the cathedral and finds and praying to ensure his safety. She is pleased to see him again so soon, but is somewhat disheartened to learn that he is already accompanied by another girl. He appears indifferent and asks if she knows anyone named Satch who might have been brought to this world with them. This surprises and even more, as she now has to compete with 2 women. Unable to find any leads, Osamu resumes his wandering with the furry girl while continuously consuming sedatives. The furry girl reassures him that he will find the girl he's searching for soon, but suggests they visit the nearby town of Roth in the meantime. As she grabs his hand and appears and strikes her with her staff, declaring that public hand-holding is inappropriate. The furry girl realizes that and has feelings for Osamu and starts teasing her about it, and denies this, saying her role is to guide heroes and ensure their safety. The furry girl claims she now understands why Osamu is so formidable, and is surprised when and explains that he saved her from a demon tree with just 1 blow. Feeling even more distressed about Osamu's apparent closeness with another woman, and turns around to see Osamu climbing into a coffin. He explains that he has been feeling dizzy since his arrival and plans to sleep now. He closes the coffin, forcing and to drag it toward Roth, where the real adventures are expected to start. Soon, the furry girl is also compelled to drag the coffin alongside which frustrates her. She begins shouting at Osamu to get out and walk like a normal person. When there is no response from inside the coffin, she becomes worried and asks if he is dead, and quickly checks his stats and reassures her that he is simply resting inside. Osamu is enjoying his free ride while reminiscing about his beloved. His rest is interrupted by An's urgent calls for him to come out, as they have arrived near the city. He exits the coffin and admires Roth, the city bathed in the sunset, with bustling shops and roads filled with animals carrying loads, and tells him they should head straight to the palace to meet the king. They leave the coffin behind and proceed toward the castle. Inside the castle, they are greeted by King Tom, who is overweight, and his beautiful daughter, Princess Char, and Intama kneel, but Osamu remains standing, refusing to bow. The king offers them lodging and food but demands something in return. He expresses his love for thrilling travel stories and asks Osamu to share some. This proves to be a mistake, as Osamu, with a lifeless gaze, offers to teach the king how to sleep in a coffin. This terrifies the king, who fears that this zombie-like man is threatening him, and quickly diverts the king's attention by complimenting the princess's beauty, which pleases him. The king then mentions that the princess is about to be married and introduces the potential suitors. The door opens to reveal a massive knight and a slender man with a harp. The king introduces the knight, Gomez, as one of the strongest men around, and Otto, the astute musician with a talent for politics. He explains that the Demon King's activities have increased, but he himself is too old and fat to combat the demons. Therefore, he wants one of his sons-in-law to handle these threats. As Osamu continues to consume poison pills, the king asks which of the suitors would be a better choice for the kingdom. Osamu, uninterested, replies that he has no idea and criticizes the king for placing the fate of the kingdom in the hands of random travelers. He adds with a smile that the king is unfit to rule, both figuratively and literally. The king is shocked, while Osamu simply turns and walks out of the court, leaving the 2 girls to apologize to the king on his behalf. Later that night, Osamu sits on his bed, gazing at the moon, lost in thought, and wakes up and asks if everything is alright. Osamu says he can't sleep properly and is used to staying awake all night, staring at the sky, and then notices something under the blanket and pulls it back, discovering Tama sleeping in Osamu's bed, and hits Tama with a pillow and scolds her for being indecent, calling her a furry. Unable to handle the commotion, Osamu calmly leaves the room and walks the hallways in search of peace. He encounters Princess Char, who is looking out at the lake. He joins her, and she greets him as he stands beside her. They both look at the lake, and Char remarks that its beauty makes her want to drown herself in it. This shocks Osamu, who asks if she is okay. Char turns the question around, asking if he is okay given how stressed she must be. Char explains that Gomez is a strong knight with many soldiers, making him a dependable choice for the kingdom. However, Otto, her childhood friend, used to write songs for her when she was sad, complicating her decision. Osamu understands and shares that he has been trying to end his life, inconveniencing many, but he still has enough self-respect to choose how he lives. This perspective opens the princess's eyes, and Osamu advises her to follow her heart and disregard others' opinions. The next morning, the king summons everyone to the court and excitedly announces that his daughter has made her decision. He wants them to witness it. The princess stands and declares that after much thought, she has decided to end her life with Osamu. This shocks everyone, causing Anne to faint and Tama to scream at Char to stop joking. Char, however, is resolute, telling Osamu that although Otto used to comfort her with songs, his constant singing last night disturbed her sleep and made her realize that he is a narcissistic fool. She also cannot choose Gomez because he is a smelly brute. The king rushes to her, insisting she must choose a husband, but the princess calls him an idiot for never seeking her permission and declares she does not wish to marry. She tells Osamu he is the only one who considered her feelings. Suddenly, the massive knight removes his helmet in anger, revealing his insecurity about being smelly. To everyone's shock, he transforms into a demonic-looking bull and announces that he is one of the officers in the Demon King's army. He wanted to marry the princess to become king and offer the kingdom to the demon lord. Osamu comments that the bull indeed smells quite a lot, enraging the bull, who vows to kill everyone for this disrespect. Meanwhile, Tama tries to wake up Anne. As a group of guards floods into the court to protect the king, the demon sweeps them away with a single punch, sending a broken pillar crashing through the room. Tama narrowly avoids the pillar while carrying and leaping to safety. Infuriated, Tama decides to fight back, rushing in to deliver a knee to the demon's grotesque face, catching him off guard since he didn't expect a furry to be so combative. Meanwhile, Otto begins to sing a new song, which surprisingly boosts Tama's stats significantly. The bull demon charges at Tama, his horns poised to skewer her. However, Tama's agility allows her to slide beneath the attack and retaliate with a kick to the demon's face. The demon persists, so she tries to punch him away, but he blocks it with his horns and counterattacks. She retreats just in time, but a small cut opens on her face, causing her to bleed. Tama takes a defensive stance, aware that the bull's horns are both sharp and durable, as the monster prepares to unleash his full strength. Before the demon can launch his attack, Osamu interrupts by calling him a cow and asking if he can kill him and Char first. This surprises Char, while the king tries to intervene. Tama yells at Osamu to stop his antics, but the demon laughs with fury, vowing to kill them all before taking on the king and everyone in the kingdom because Osamu insulted him. The bull demon charges at Osamu at full speed, causing Char to reconsider. She finally admits that she doesn't want to die, tears streaming down her face. Osamu smiles, acknowledging that this time she's genuinely sincere, and pushes her out of the way to face his death. Fortunately, Anne awakens and quickly casts a shield wall in front of Osamu, promising she won't let him die while she's around. The demon bull continues to press against the shield, but to everyone's shock, he breaks his own horns and stumbles back in pain. This gives Tama an opportunity to attack. She leaps in with a powerful halal hubba, blasting the demon through the walls and into the lake. Tama and Anne both sigh in relief, realizing the crisis is over. Otto praises them and promises to turn their ordeal into a song. Char watches the lake through the hole in the wall as her father rushes to her, falling to his knees and apologizing for never considering her feelings and admitting he's unfit to rule. Char hugs him and forgives him, and they agree to discuss their feelings openly and rule the kingdom together. The next morning, the king abdicates his position to become an advisor, and Char becomes the youngest queen in the kingdom's history. Anne and Tama resume their journey, dragging the large coffin with Osamu inside, who sleeps as they travel, awaiting their next adventure. For the following days, Tama and Anne continue carrying the coffin while Osamu rarely emerges. Tama grows tired, so they decide to take a break. When Osamu finally emerges from his coffin, he asks if it's time to eat, expressing a desire for some boiled tofu. Seeing the puzzled look on Anne's face, he retreats back into his coffin and starts noting the food to buy from the next town. As Anne reviews the map to determine their location, Tama asks when they will reach her homeland, Grunt, and checks and says they are a few days away, mentioning they'll need to stop at a temple along the way. Tama shoves some bread in Anne's face and asks why they need to stop, and explains that while most heroes from other worlds head straight to the Demon Lord's castle, Osamu only wants to find his beloved Satch. Thus, they will need to explore and gather more information about her. Tama teases Anne about her apparent interest in Osamu, but denies any romantic feelings, insisting she's just fulfilling her role as his guide. Tama says she will accompany them to her hometown but will then continue on her own, and says she has already sent her resignation to the temple via a familiar, so it shouldn't be an issue. However, the familiar returns, biting Osamu on the head during his smoke break, and grabs the familiar and discovers it never delivered her resignation. Angrily, she throws the familiar away, but Osamu finds it endearing and names it Milos before retreating to his coffin. Suddenly, Milos begins acting erratically and runs away in fear, which surprises and, before they can react, a giant red dragon descends from the sky, landing just a few feet away. Both En and Tama are terrified, as dragons are the most powerful monsters in the world. The dragon roars at them, leaving them paralyzed with fear. Just when they think it's over, a voice behind them commands the dragon to back off, and it obeys. Turning around, they see a small, white-haired girl in a hooded cloak who approaches the dragon and begins petting it. The girl talks to the dragon in a foreign language, which shocks Tama and Anne, revealing that she has tamed the dragon. She turns to them and warns them to leave immediately, as the area is extremely dangerous. Before they can respond, Osamu emerges from his coffin for another smoke and introduces himself as an otherworldly hero. Upon hearing this, the girl's demeanor changes. She removes her cloak to reveal that she is a dragon herself, and her aura starts to push them back, and is stunned by the girl's power as she declares that she will kill any otherworlders she encounters. The dragon charges up a magical attack and fires it at Osamu, and stands firm and puts up a shield, but the dragon girl's power is too strong, and the shield shatters, causing a massive explosion. As the dust settles, and manages to deflect the attack just in time, saving their lives. However, she is completely drained and lying on the ground. They manage to stand up and tells Tama they need to protect Osamu. The dragon girl uses her gravity magic to force them back onto their knees, applying immense pressure, and then notices a distinctive mark on the dragon girl and realizes that she is none other than the demon lord herself. The demon lord starts charging another attack, but Osamu calmly gets up and tells her to leave the girls alone. As he approaches her, Osamu says that he is her opponent and that he is ready to die. Without hesitation, the demon lord stabs Osamu through the chest with her bare hand. Both En and Tama are horrified as Osamu collapses into a pool of his own blood, while the demon lord walks away, bidding them farewell. Tama and En collapse from shock and exhaustion, but then Osamu speaks up, addressing the demon lord. He claims that he could feel her hatred when she stabbed him. The demon lord is caught off guard as she watches Osamu rise and approach her again. He tells her that, when he was very sad, even he wanted to stab someone just to feel something. He touches her face, commenting that her eyes seem very sad and asking why she feels that way. The demon lord, recovering from her shock, leaps onto her dragon and flies away, completely baffled. Osamu falls to the ground once more, but fortunately, Milos, who had been hiding in the corner, carries them all to a nearby temple. At the temple, the priestess is shocked to find En near death. She asks if En is okay, but En only tells the priestess to save Osamu, who is still bleeding profusely. The priestess immediately summons every healer in the temple to care for them. By the next morning, Osamu is back to his usual self, buying the deadliest poison and chugging it like a college student at a frat party. Tama quickly smacks the bottle out of his hand, scolding him, while the priestess, named Isha, asks En why she came to the temple, and immediately inquires if Isha knows anyone named Sach, but Isha denies knowing anyone by that name. She then asks En why she is traveling with Otherworlders. Isha expresses her relief upon hearing that and quit her job, explaining that Otherworlders are generally self-centered jerks who only use their powers for personal gain. As Isha advises En to stop traveling with Osamu, another Otherworlder arrives, rapping like Drake after a Kendrick Lamar diss. He flaunts his wealth, using the power of infinite multiplication for his own benefit. Isha becomes furious and throws the money back at him, telling him to leave, as he can only impress minors. She then tells En that all Otherworlders are the same, narcissistic jerks. However, En argues that Osamu is different, as he completely changed her life. Just then, Osamu approaches, asking for money to buy more deadly drugs. Without even looking, En starts handing him money. Isha asks En what kind of abilities Osamu possesses, but En explains that Osamu has no special skills and is actually quite weak. Despite this, he risked his life to save both her and Tama from the Dark Lord. Isha is shocked and tells En that it's impossible, as another Otherworlder killed the Demon Lord 7 days ago. Later that day, En tells Tama about the Demon Lord, and even she is surprised. However, Tama is also happy, thinking that they can finally live in peace. And, though, remains confused, as this doesn't explain why they encountered another girl with the Demon Lord's mark. Suddenly, Osamu tears up all the pages he was writing, calling it brain-dead gibberish, much like J.K. Rowling's tweets, and scolds him for being a nerd and drags him out to go shopping. She buys him a massive suit of armor that covers his entire body and is far too large for him. Tama remarks that Osamu can't even walk in it, and insists that she can't bear to see him get hurt anymore, so the armor will have to do. After placing the helmet on him, she tells him to stay put while she goes off to buy more supplies. This, however, turns out to be a bad idea, as Osamu soon attracts a crowd of onlookers. Fortunately, Isha spots him and asks what the hell he's doing there. Osamu responds that he's just chilling, but Isha is not amused. She informs him that and will be staying with her from now on, and he will have to continue his journey alone. Osamu grins like an idiot and tells her that it's up to and to decide whether she stays or travels with him, as she is not a caged bird and should be free to make her own decisions. Before they can argue further, they hear a commotion coming from the town center. A large number of monster dogs arrive, and Drake introduces Suzuki as their lord. Suzuki, a blonde, cocky figure, sits atop his monster wolf and tells the townspeople that it was an otherworlder who defeated the demon lord. This excites the townspeople, who rejoice at the prospect of peace and prosperity finally prevailing. But Suzuki's speech isn't over. He goes on to declare that, since the otherworlders risked their lives to save this world, it will now be ruled entirely by them. This announcement shocks everyone, as they don't know how to react to the situation. Drake proclaims Suzuki as the new lord of the city. Suddenly, Drake spots and points her out to Suzuki, claiming she was the one who insulted him earlier. Suzuki dismounts from his wolf and approaches, and with a smug smile, placing his hand on her head as she wonders if this is where her adventures will end. Tama, too frightened to act against this powerful hero, watches helplessly. Suzuki then uses a special skill that immediately takes control of Anne's body. She feels her soul being trapped in a cage as she becomes enslaved by his spell, falling to her knees with her eyes turning yellow. Tama is utterly confused, unsure of what just happened, while Drake laughs, explaining that Suzuki's special ability allows him to enslave anyone he touches. The purer the person, the easier it is to enslave them. Tama, enraged, screams at Suzuki to release her friend. She grabs Drake by the collar, ready to punch him, but before she can act, Suzuki grabs her head from behind and uses his spell on her as well, enslaving her just like Anne. Tama also falls to her knees. Suzuki boasts about how overpowered his skill is, claiming that no one can stand against him. As the crowd falls silent, Isha's voice rings out, calling Suzuki a massive poo-poo head for using such a spell on innocent people. She declares that the town will never surrender to someone as foolish as Suzuki, and the townspeople shout their agreement. Suzuki, however, remains undeterred. He smiles and states that it doesn't matter what the weak people of this world want. If they refuse to surrender to him, he will simply destroy their entire town and build his kingdom on their ashes. He orders his rap monster dogs to attack everyone. The townspeople panic, and all hell breaks loose as they run in all directions, trying to escape the monsters. Suzuki laughs and starts walking away. Isha, surrounded by 4 monsters, screams at him to stop the madness if he has any humanity left, but he doesn't care and leaves her to die at the hands of his monster dogs. The city quickly turns into a battlefield as the monster dogs wreak havoc, burning buildings and houses while the residents flee to safety. Meanwhile, Osamu, still in his cumbersome armor, is suddenly attacked by Tama, who is now completely under Suzuki's control. She claws at the armor with all her strength, landing powerful blows, but the armor is thick and protects him. While being attacked, Osamu muses to himself about how you can't even trust your friends these days. Suddenly, with one devastating punch, Tama breaks through the breastplate, but the helmet flies off and hits her in the face, knocking her out. Osamu escapes the armor and places Tama in a barrel for safety. As he wonders what to do next, Isha is slammed into the wall beside him. He looks at her with a blank expression and asks what's happening. She explains that this is why she doesn't trust otherworlders. They are all greedy, narcissistic idiots who don't care about anyone else. She also tells him that when Suzuki first arrived in the world, she helped him survive, as he was once a weak-willed man who wouldn't even hurt a mosquito. This catches Osamu's interest, and he starts taking notes for his next thriller novel before asking where Suzuki is. Isha, confused, says he went to the church, so Osamu decides to follow, leaving Tama in Isha's care. Isha tries to stop him, warning that he will die if he goes alone, so she decides to accompany him to find a way to drive Suzuki out of the city. They finally reach the church, where Isha asks Osamu if he has a plan. He doesn't seem to hear her and instead pulls out a bottle of poison. Isha assumes it's to kill the demon dogs, but to her horror, Osamu drinks the entire bottle right in front of her. She suggests sneaking in through the back entrance, but Osamu prefers to confront Suzuki head-on, so he opens the main gate. Inside, Suzuki is seated on a throne, surrounded by Drake and his demon dogs. Suzuki asks Isha if she found an otherworlder to help her. Osamu, unfazed, announces that he's only there to write a novel about Suzuki. At first, Suzuki is pleased, assuming it will be a heroic tale. However, Osamu clarifies that the novel is about corruption, greed, and narcissism, the ugliest traits a person can have. Angered, Suzuki commands his monster dogs to attack. Isha pushes Osamu aside and uses her light magic to repel most of the dogs, but one breaks through and nearly chomps down on her. Thankfully, she blocks the attack with her staff, but more monster dogs prepare to launch fire blasts at Osamu, who remains in place, still taking notes. Isha screams for him to move, but he stands his ground. Just then, Milos appears, wearing the helmet, and perfectly deflects the fireballs back at Suzuki and his dogs. Osamu thanks Milos for the help, while Suzuki, desperate, summons the alpha demon wolf to finish the battle. He warns them that one bite from this deadly beast will end their lives. The wolf leaps into action and bites down on Osamu's shoulder, but to everyone's shock, the wolf turns black and collapses, dying from the poison mixed in Osamu's blood. Isha quickly heals Osamu while Drake flees to save himself. Isha tells Suzuki to surrender, but he refuses and reveals that and is still under his control. This shocks Isha as and grabs a dagger from Suzuki's hand. Under his command, she charges at Isha, attempting to stab her. Isha tries to reason with but she doesn't respond and attacks relentlessly. Isha blocks the strikes and retreats while Osamu, unfazed, continues writing notes for his book. Isha urges him to retreat, as they can't harm but Osamu steps forward, insisting that is stronger than Suzuki realizes. Suzuki boasts that his spell is unbreakable, but Osamu ignores him and approaches asking if this is truly what she wants, and freezes, her knife still in hand, but doesn't attack. Blood begins to flow as her true self fights for control, gripping the blade. Suzuki, panicked, tries to reinforce his spell, commanding her to attack again, but with sheer willpower, and breaks free from the spell and collapses unconscious. Osamu catches her and asks Isha to heal her completely as he resumes writing. Suzuki is in disbelief that someone managed to break through his seemingly unbeatable spell. Desperate and shaken, he rushes to grab the knife, but instead of attacking Osamu, he tries to end his own life. Fortunately, Osamu stops him, grabbing his hand despite the blood dripping from his own. He tells Suzuki that he can't take his life because Osamu is writing a story about him, and if he dies now, the story will end too soon. Osamu encourages Suzuki to tell him his full story. With tears in his eyes, Suzuki reveals that back on Earth, he was constantly bullied for his small size and weak nature. He was beaten regularly in school, and even random strangers treated him with contempt. His life became so miserable that he attempted suicide several times but never had the courage to go through with it. One day, he was offered a second chance and was sent to this magical world. Upon arrival, Isha was his guide, showing him his special skill, which allowed him to tame and enslave any beast. With her help, he practiced hard and eventually defeated the Demon King, slowly building a pack of loyal demon dogs. However, even in this new world, he was still not treated well because people discriminated him from being another worder. In his fury, Suzuki began wielding his spell with increasing frequency, seeking a sense of power and control. This obsession ultimately transformed him into a monstrous figure. Osamu, observing the scene with a smirk, proudly announces that his small book is finally complete. The book is based on a story of someone who was given a rare second chance to turn his life around but ultimately failed to become a hero, and could not even succeed as a villain due to his inherent weakness. As the narrative unfolds, the pages of Osamu's book start to revolve around Suzuki, casting an eerie blue glow over him, while a magical circle materializes beneath him. Osamu remarks that while the story was good, it is not his magnum opus. He then dramatically rips a piece of paper in half. Almost immediately, a brilliant light floods the scene, and Suzuki disappears from view. And Isha are left in awe and disbelief, realizing that Osamu has just sent Suzuki back to his original world, a power they had never imagined existed. At this point, Osamu, feeling increasingly disinterested, collapses onto his back and begins munching on some sleeping pills. Meanwhile, within the city, the demon dogs, freed from Suzuki's spell, retreat back to their forest. Tama emerges from the barrel, restored to her original self. The following morning, Isha presents Osamu with a beautiful coffin as a token of thanks, as it was something he had expressed a desire for. Isha cautions that their upcoming journey will be extremely arduous and fraught with danger. She asks one last time if she wants to stay behind and enjoy a safe, comfortable life, however, declines, stating that she wants to discover what kind of story her life will ultimately become. Isha, smiling, bids them farewell as they set out once more, uncertain of the treacherous adventures that lie ahead. The defeat of the demon lord by the heroes from another world had given everyone a sense of relief, as they felt they could finally breathe freely and roam without fear of death. However, It soon becomes apparent that the 7 heroes who defeated the Demon Lord have now claimed his castle and recently sent a declaration of war to the Pope of the country. They announced their intention to rule the entire world according to their will. This news shocks everyone profoundly. Isha adds that the Demon Lord's daughter has also gone missing, which is a grave concern. She is a formidable demon in her own right and has the power to obliterate the entire country if she so chooses. The priests are left to ponder their options, as the heroes they once considered saviors have turned into malevolent beings, driven by greed, and are now threatening the hard-won peace. Suddenly, Isha recalls her encounter with Suzuki and reveals to the others that she met another worlder who was markedly different from the usual heroes. Despite lacking special abilities, this individual managed to send the rogue hero Suzuki back to his own world using a unique power that even he does not fully understand. The revelation stuns everyone, and they eagerly request more information. At that moment, the Pope arrives, and all the priests immediately bow in his presence. The Pope informs Isha that he wants to know everything about this otherworlder, as he might be sent by God to solve their current crisis. This otherworlder could be the key to resolving their major dilemma. Meanwhile, Osamu is peacefully asleep in his coffin, while Tama and N drag it toward a nearby city, intending to rest before continuing their journey. Tama, exhausted from dragging the heavy coffin all day, pleads with and to find them some comfortable feather beds for at least one night, and consults a map to locate the nearest hotel when a young boy, who is inexplicably perched on a signboard, provides her with directions. He thanks her and asks if they are new travelers in the city, offering to exchange useful information for money. They decide to listen to him, and he explains that he is an entrepreneur who has developed a hero service. He rents out otherworldly heroes to parties who lack confidence in their strength, ensuring they reach their destinations safely. Tama is immediately skeptical, recalling the dubious nature of Suzuki and Drake, but the boy assures her that heroes from other worlds are very kind and provide genuine protection. For the modest sum of $5,000, he promises to supply them with a reliable hero. And, sensing a potential scam from the boy's accent, is hesitant, but Tama, who is easily swayed, takes out the money, believing it's a small price to ensure Osamu's safety. The boy approaches the coffin and suggests that the dead man inside would surely want protection for his journey. When the coffin shifts and Osamu emerges, the boy is horrified. Tama explains that Osamu is indeed an adventurer, but the boy remains doubtful, as adventurers typically do not look like strangled cats. Offended by the comment, Osamu stays composed as the boy seizes the money and promises to return with the hero later that night. Tama is relieved at the prospect of having a strong adventurer join their party, which means no more dragging the coffin. However, by nightfall, they reach the hotel's reception, but there is no sign of the young boy. The elderly receptionist asks if they intend to stay, and pleads for a bit more time, anticipating the hero's arrival. The receptionist then reveals that the boy, named Nier, is known for scamming adventurers and that this is his usual trick, and is devastated, realizing that they have been defrauded of $5,000. Tama tries to help her calm down, while Osamu inquires further about Nier's activities. The lady tells him that Nier is just an orphan who has no one in this world to look up to. So, he stays around the town and makes a living by scamming travelers whenever he gets the opportunity. She explains that he isn't bad at heart, but because there is no one to guide him, he is making all the wrong decisions and always getting into trouble. While Anne was waiting for the hero she had ordered, Nier was calmly sitting beneath a bridge with his belongings and a sword he had. He feels bad about scamming these people and wonders whether he should give some of the money back. But suddenly, someone puts a sack over his head and takes him away along with all his money. When he finally opens his eyes, he finds himself tied to a wooden post while 3 men take out all the money he has earned and laugh at the boy, calling him pathetic. Nier tries to act brave and warns them that he is friends with some otherworld heroes and that if they find out, they will be very angry. But the 3 kidnappers simply laugh at him. It turns out that all 3 of them are otherworlders who have gone rogue and are working as robbers and thieves to earn a lot of money. They laugh at him for thinking that any otherworlder would ever become his friend and decide to teach him a lesson since he has been making money by using their names. The leader of the group pulls out a magical crossbow and shows it to Nier, claiming that the bolt from this weapon can pierce even the toughest dragon skin. He tells his 2 cronies to hold Nier in place while he aims the crossbow at the boy, who seems to have already accepted his death. The leader begins the countdown when suddenly Osamu arrives and shifts the aim, resulting in the leader being hit in the leg. The thugs are shocked to see another man here, while Osamu steps in front of the boy and tells the robbers that because of ugly people like them, children can never trust anyone and resort to things like stealing and scamming. One of the kidnappers immediately uses his magical eyes to check Osamu's stats and screams in horror that this guy is also a hero, but he soon tells them not to worry as this guy has only 1 health point and seems to be poisoned as well. They wonder if this guy is on some kind of drugs when the leader claims that he has wasted enough time and is going to kill both Osamu and Nier. Hearing this, Osamu gets immediately excited and starts smiling, telling the leader to aim properly. The guy with the magical eyes screams that Osamu is gaining health because his body is excited about dying. Osamu looks at them with a creepy smile and tells the leader to aim directly at his heart and make sure he doesn't miss. This really scares the thugs, and they run out of the shack, thinking that this man is possessed by a demon or something. Osamu looks disappointed that they didn't try to kill him, while Nier asks if he is a hero. Osamu tells him that he is not a hero, but merely a writer who wants to reunite with the love of his life and die peacefully. After saying that, he tells Nier that he has a long life ahead of him, and if he chooses the path of stealing and lying, he will always find himself tied to a post by someone even more evil than himself. This deeply affects Nier, who looks at him with tearful eyes, while Osamu simply leaves the shack without even untying the poor boy. The next morning, Tama and get ready to leave the city for the next big town, when they notice that Osamu still seems sleepy and gets worried about him because both she and Tama slept very peacefully the night before. But Osamu simply smiles and goes back inside his coffin, and starts shouting for him to come out when, suddenly, they hear Nier's voice behind them. Tama immediately jumps on him, demanding their money back, but Nier claims that he didn't lie to them and will be joining their party to make sure they reach their destination safely. Osamu and the others soon arrive in the city of Grun, which is also Tama's homeland. The security at the gate is quite tight, but Tama is confident that she can get everyone in without any difficulty since she is really famous in her hometown. Turns out she is not just famous but also wanted, because as soon as the guards see her, they immediately arrest her and everyone with her. The guards put Osamu and Nier in a prison while taking Tama somewhere else. Osamu sleeps peacefully on top of Milo's while and cries, and Nier wonders if they got arrested because of Tama. He wonders what kind of crime she committed, and believes that Tama did nothing wrong. Osamu interrupts their conversation and asks how people are executed in this world because he is kind of looking forward to the primitive methods of torture and execution. Nier is taken aback by his smirk but decides that the first thing they should do is get out of prison. He uses the skills he picked up on the streets to unlock the prison door, and gives him a judgmental look. Osamu places his hand on Nier's shoulder, and the boy thinks he will at least praise him. However, Osamu is also deeply inconvenienced by Nier unlocking the door because he would rather relax than make an effort to be free. Just then, the guards arrive, tie them up, and Osamu asks them if they are going to be executed or not. He gets his answer in the throne room, where the minister declares that they will all be executed for their grave sins, and panics and asks the cat people to at least tell them what crimes they committed. And the king says that they kidnapped the princess of their country, so death is the only punishment, and replies that they don't even know any princess, and just then Tama enters the room dressed as a princess. She tells her father, the king, that she was not kidnapped and was just visiting different countries to grow stronger. And Nier stare at her with their mouths wide open as Tama tells her father that these people are her friends. She demands that he release them immediately, but the king refuses. However, he puts forth a condition. If Tama really wants her friends to be freed, she must promise that she will never do anything foolish and live her life as a proper princess. To save her friends from being executed, Tama gives up her freedom and accepts her father's condition. She bids farewell to her friends and then leaves the throne room. With that, the furry minister tells everyone that they are free to go. Later, Osamu and the others have dinner in an inn, wherein freaks out recalling the times she was rude to Tama, unaware that she was a princess. She fears that she will be executed if Tama tells her father about it. And just then, a waitress comes over asking if she is talking about the princess. She introduces herself as Fawn, the former lady-in-waiting for Tama, and asks and the others if they are Tama's friends. Nier replies that they were traveling companions until yesterday, but today the king forced her to leave the group and act as a proper princess. Fawn gets a little upset upon hearing this, but by this time, Osamu has made up his mind about what to do. He asks to tell him the backstory of Tama and her father because he finds her to be a very interesting person. And Nier advises against it, telling Osamu that he could get into trouble if he digs into the past of a princess. He simply replies that he doesn't care if Tama is a princess or a bar dancer, because she is his friend. Fawn agrees to tell him the story to the best of her knowledge. On the other hand, Tama is feeling nostalgic, thinking about her friends, when she suddenly spots a person standing on top of the palace. The very next moment, a huge chunk of the building is sucked into a black hole, and the king arrives in the throne room to see what is happening. He finds a man relaxing on the throne, who introduces himself as Kai, one of the 7 otherworldly heroes who defeated the demon lord. The king asks him what he is here for, and Kai declares that he has come to consume the entire kingdom, as a demonic jaw appears behind him. The soldiers inform Kai that he won't be able to leave alive because Grun is a city of warriors. They charge at him, but Kai just snaps his fingers, and the demonic jaw appears next to the soldiers, devouring them instantly. Apparently, Kai tastes whatever his demonic jaw eats, and he spits out the bones of the cat soldiers he just killed. He says their meat was too tough and chewy and he doesn't want to eat anything like that. He begins walking towards the king, saying that he doesn't like the taste of men anyway, so he will try eating a plump woman next. King SB tells Kai that he won't leave this room alive because he will face him personally. He sheds his armor and gets ready to fight, and Kai summons his demonic jaw to attack him. SB dodges the attack of the demonic jaw and lands a kick behind it before rushing at Kai and hitting him with a powerful thunder fist. Kai screams in pain from the king's attack, but he was just acting. He quickly puts some distance between himself and SB, then reveals that his stomach has transformed into stone because he ate a bunch of rocks before coming here. Seeing that ordinary attacks won't be useful, SB removes all the limiters on his power and charges up his ultimate attack. A magic circle appears over his fist as he charges at Kai, but just then Tama arrives and interrupts their fight. SB backs away, and Kai notices Tama. He declares that she will be his next prey, and Tama freezes because she recognizes him as the person she saw on the roof earlier. She tears her dress to fight alongside her father, but he stops her, telling her that she won't be able to replace Leon. Those words stun the poor cat girl, and she remembers Leon, her twin brother, who was much stronger and more talented compared to her. Everyone thought the kingdom would be safe in his hands, but 10 years ago, Lion and his mother died in a carriage accident. The king was heartbroken over the loss of his wife and son, and young Tama decided to take on the responsibility of becoming the kingdom's future. She wanted to become the replacement for her dead brother, but that only worsened her relationship with her father. SB tells Tama to stop interfering in his fight because girls belong in the kitchen and not on the battlefield. Tama calls her father a misogynistic pig and lunges at Kai to prove that she is as good as her brother. However, Kai sends his demonic jaw to eat her, and she isn't quick enough to react. At the last moment, SB pushes her away from danger, losing his arm in the process. Kai laughs at him, saying that he won't be able to use his ultimate move now because he has eaten his arm. Tama becomes extremely furious and rushes at him, but the furry minister manages to knock her out and carry her to safety. Kai decides to let them run away for now because he will get to her later, and for now, he plans to consume the king. Meanwhile, Osamu finishes hearing the complete story about Tama and her father from Fawn. Just as he is about to take his leave, the old minister arrives with Tama and tells them that an evil otherworlder has attacked the castle. Suddenly, an explosion occurs near the castle, and Kai appears with King SB as his prisoner. He introduces himself to the people of the city and tells them that they are under new management now. He declares that his goal as the king of this land is to eat every single one of them. A man throws stones at him, daring him to come down so he can kick his ass. In response, Kai simply gobbles him up from his place. The crowd panics and runs away, but Kai tells them that it is useless because he has set demons that used to serve the demon lord as guards to ensure that no one can get away. He then kicks SB down and drags him away, horrifying everyone, but Osamu is happily scribbling something in his notebook. He finishes writing and then says that Tama is truly the heroine of a tragic novel, but he wants her to wake up and show him that her story is not over yet. In her dreams, Tama sees her mother, and then suddenly wakes up in an unfamiliar room. She goes outside to find Osamu and the others and learns everything that happened while she was passed out. Tama rushes to the castle to defeat Kai, but the minister stops her, saying that she can't do that because even the king couldn't. Tama replies that her father lost because he was trying to protect her, and it is her duty to protect the kingdom in place of her brother. She is about to leave, but then stops her. She tells the cat girl that her brother and mother passed away a long time ago, and now even the king has been defeated. If the princess of the kingdom also loses her life in such a situation, it will shatter the hopes of the country. That is why she asks Tama to step back and let her friends handle the situation for her. Tama is unsure, but assures her that they have a trump card to defeat the otherworlders. With that, Osamu commands his team to follow him to the castle, and they are met by two giant monsters guarding the palace. And Anir prepare to fight, but Osamu steps forward and tells the guards that they are here to be eaten by the new king. Everyone is dumbfounded as Osamu explains that he was moved by Kai's speech, and now he wants to be eaten by him. The monsters share only one brain cell and thus cannot process how to react to this situation. As Osamu keeps pestering them, they throw him and his friends back into the prison cell, where begins crying and begging God for help. Osamu tells her to stop acting so disgracefully and then goes to Nier, pulling out the wire hidden under his hat and asking him to do what he does best. Meanwhile, Kai is patiently waiting for the first demon he will eat when suddenly the two guards come to him, telling him about the perverted human who wants to be eaten. Before they can elaborate, they are hit with great force from behind and flung towards Kai. Tama has arrived to get revenge on Kai, and he is pleased because he really wanted to eat her. She recalls her childhood days when she used to watch from a tree branch while her father trained her brother Leon in the art of fighting, even though he was a very gentle person who never liked fighting or hurting anyone. On the other hand, Tama was a total tomboy who really wanted to learn how to fight, but her father always shut her down and told her to go back to the kitchen with her mother, where they belonged. She suddenly snaps back to reality, vowing to herself that she will prove her strength to everyone today. Kai, incredibly happy to see her, knew she would come to him on her own if he used her father as bait. He finally gets up from his throne and walks towards her, claiming that he likes to play with his food, and immediately kicks the demon lying near him towards Tama, who barely dodges it, horrified by Kai's strength. To her surprise, that was just a distraction, as Kai manages to close the distance and lands a devastating blow, sending her crashing into the wall. She is shocked since this is her father's ability, while Kai laughs, claiming that his secret ability is gluttony, which lets him use anyone's powers once he tastes them. Now, he is going to tear her apart using her own father's skills before eating her alive as well. Meanwhile, Osamu and his party have managed to escape the prison and wander through the palace halls, and wonders if Osamu has a plan, but instead of heading to the throne room, he enters a different room that belonged to the queen when she was alive. He walks through the room directly to the dresser and tries to open the drawers, but they are locked. Nier tells him to stop wasting time and help T, but Osamu flatters him again by claiming that the services of a valiant warrior were needed once more. Nier happily opens the dresser, revealing a book inside. Back in the throne room, Tama barely manages to stand up against Kai's continuous assault, but he is simply too quick for her. He appears behind her and delivers a massive kick, throwing her into the air before elbowing her back to the ground with incredible force. He laughs at her, claiming that she needs to understand that her martial art style is garbage and that she will never be able to defeat him. But Tama remembers how her brother Leon used to train and never give up, even when he hated fighting. She manages to gather her strength and get up again, while her father tells her to back off, as the difference in strength is too great. Kai, however, is insanely pleased to see this, as it excites him even more to taste her flesh. He reminisces about his old world, where he was super rich with parents who bought him everything. He acted like a rich, spoiled kid all day, with 5-star dishes always on his table, but this left him empty inside and made him a total sociopath. He wanted to feel something in life, so one day he attacked a maid with his fork for no reason and had to be stopped by his bodyguards. Because his parents were super rich, he got off scot-free and continued his empty life, wandering around the city in his Speedo and beating up homeless people for no reason, thinking they should just build a home if they were homeless. Fortunately, the world got rid of this psychopath thanks to Truck K, who sent him to this world, but even here he remained a complete psycho. He laughs loudly, claiming that he will eat this entire kingdom until no one is left to eat, and attacks Tama, but his jaws suddenly stop as Osamu appears in front of her. Kai wonders who the strange-looking man is, while Osamu claims that Kai's story is worse than Riverdale, which is a statement in itself and obviously pisses Kai off. He tries to attack Osamu with his jaws, but for some reason, they don't move. Kai wonders why his instincts are telling him to avoid this man when suddenly An and Nier also appear behind him, claiming that Osamu is here to deliver divine punishment to Kai and telling Osamu to write a story about Kai and send him back to his own world. Osamu, however, is a total Chad and refuses to do so, claiming that this man's story is pathetic and he won't write anything about this characterless person. This really enrages Kai, who uses his lightning strike to blast everyone away, claiming that he will kill all of them before eating the princess. While Tama struggles to get up and blames herself for the injuries caused to her friends, Osamu, however, doesn't seem to care as he hands her a bunch of pages, claiming that he has dedicated this story to her. Tama grabs the book and turns the page when suddenly the pages start glowing and flying out of the book, start revolving around her. Kai uses his thunder blast on Nier again, and blocks it with her shield while wondering if Osamu's abilities also work on normal people. Osamu tells Tama that he was impressed by her courage and kindness when she decided to sacrifice herself for her friend's happiness. He claims that she simply wanted to help her father get over her brother's death, which is why she started acting more like him and trying to take on his roles, but none of that was ever accepted. He continues that Tama has two options now, to become the ideal princess her father wanted or to take her brother's place as the prince. However, he claims that Tama's path is different since she is her own person with her own experiences. He tells her to live the way she wants to live, and this statement alone breaks all the chains that held her back, allowing her to truly feel free. A bright golden glow starts emanating from her as the crest of the divine beast appears on her hand, filling her with energy. She stands up again while Kai turns around and comments that if this were a manga or an anime, she would have defeated him by now and would enjoy a happy ending. But since this is real life, none of that will happen, and she and her friends will still die before her eyes while he eats her alive in front of her father. Tama, however, remains unfazed by this while Osamu calmly lights a cigarette and tells Kai to test her out, as he might be surprised by how strong a modern, independent woman can be. She immediately rushes toward Kai, who tries to shock her away, but Tama finds an opening and punches him back. This surprises him, and before he can even recover, she headbutts him like a goat, making him even more furious as he tries to launch a massive attack. Tama, however, is in her zone and charges ahead with a special ability known as the 100 Fangs, which creates multiple slashes on Kai's body, causing him to drop to the ground dead in his own pool of blood. Tama also collapses from exhaustion, while her father grabs her and then rushes to heal her. Osamu walks up to the king and hands him the book that belonged to his wife. The king thanks Osamu for his help, and Osamu tells him to thank his own daughter since she is the one who did everything and he merely wrote a story he found interesting. Suddenly, to their surprise, Kai's body starts floating in the sky, as he is resurrected as a bizarre centipede demon abomination. Even he is surprised by this but remembers that he ate the previous demon king's flesh when they killed him, and because of that, he has now become a demon even stronger than before. The king wonders if this is the end for them, as even Tama is not in a condition to fight anymore. But before Kai can attack, his head is severed by the daughter of the previous demon king, named Wald. Everyone is shocked to see her, while the king wonders what the hell is happening today. But Wald doesn't seem to care about them and simply walks up to Kai, who recognizes her and starts mocking her by claiming that her father was very tasty. This enrages her, and she uses a dark magic beam that blasts through his head and half of the roof, killing him instantly. Tama and the others immediately go on the defensive, expecting an attack, while Osamu appears behind the demon without fear, asking if she feels better after this. Wald is shocked to see Osamu since she thought he died after she attacked him last time, but she simply backs off for now and jumps back on her dragon, promising to kill him when they meet next. The night finally ends, and a couple of weeks later, Osamu and his party decide to leave the Beast Kingdom to continue their journey. Unfortunately for them, Tama decided to stay behind to help her father. Back in the castle, the king realizes that Tama is not meant for the life of a princess, as a tomboy like her cannot stay still and is always looking for adventures everywhere. So he decides to be rid of her and allows her to rejoin her friends on their adventure. She rushes out happily and finds Osamu's coffin being dragged by Nier, who is not very good at it but is happy to see that Tama is back to help them drag his stupid coffin into the next adventure. After several days of travel, Tama points out the largest tree in the Zauberberg region, known as the World Tree of Groom. Osamu comments on its overflowing vitality, while Ainette adds that no matter how many times she passes by, her spirit always feels renewed. The catgirl beams with pride at their remarks, but Nier quickly reminds her that the compliments weren't directed at her. Claire explains to the writer that this is a sacred tree that protects Zauberberg and offers protection to all who visit it. Nearby is the peaceful village of Tanako, where people live a simple life close to nature. Finally, Isha suggests they stop to pray for a safe journey, but Tama, who had been trying to tell this whole story about the tree herself, asks for patience, tongue-tied, as her friend interrupts and advances on her. A few minutes later, they arrive at a welcome sign for Tanako, and although they thought it might be some kind of hippie village where everyone applauds the sun, the reality was quite different. The place was an enormous casino for the transferred ones, who proudly lost their money and stabbed each other without any remorse. Nira had imagined something different for this village, while Osamu wisely explains that water takes the shape of its container, so there must be some reason why Tanako had become this way. As their supplies dwindle, the author jokingly asks if there's a sacred tree nearby where he can hang himself. Smoothly, Osamu suggests they talk to the mayor to try to understand what's going on, while Osamu munches on pebbles from the ground to curb his craving for sedatives. Later, they ask the mayor what's happening with the village, and he explains that a few months ago, some of the transferred ones who came to see the World Tree started living there. They built the gambling hall, which attracted the worst types from all over, stealing the simple and peaceful lifestyle of Tanako. To illustrate his point, the mayor picks a leaf from the World Tree and shows that not only this one but all of them have weakened over time, which is a sign that the tree's spirit is saddened. For this reason, the old man asks if the travelers could restore peace to the village, while Osamu tries to negotiate a new pot of sedatives in exchange for some help. Hearing the conversation, a knight in luxurious, shining armor offers to solve the situation. Considering everything they've been through with the transferred ones, the group remains on high alert. The knight understands their distrust but assures them that he's different from the others. Kneeling, he declares that he seeks only peace and asks for permission to save the World Tree. Ainette tries to motivate Osamu for the mission, pointing out that they've found an important ally, only to realize that the protagonist had simply disappeared from the area. Not far away he walks, mentioning that with his back straight and his lungs full of air, It means he needs to do something about it because having a healthy body is the last thing he wants. A little further ahead, he finds a hollow tree and feels that this place exudes immorality, so he goes there immediately. To his delight, inside, there's a group of transferred ones exhaling smoke. He revels in the unhealthy, corrupt atmosphere of that pit and then asks anyone willing to share the substance with him, until a woman touches the writer's face and invites him to a place even more fun than this. Soon, the two head to a closed tavern, where Osamu drinks alone until the woman questions why so much excess. He explains that he drinks until he crawls because his life is so miserable that he can't bear it. The woman lightly laughs at his strange behavior and asks what he was doing in that cave since that's where the addicts of analgesic leaves gather. Osamu says he lost something important to him and that the idea of his mind and body becoming healthy again is suffocating to the point of not letting him sleep. The woman then says she will help him sleep peacefully because, despite her appearance, she is a dancer. Osamu doubts that watching someone dance could be enjoyable in any way, but she insists on giving him a brief performance. And so, with a violinist playing in the background, she displays her impeccable movements before the author, who, despite his initial reluctance, gives in to the moment and admits that his night is actually quite pleasant. On the other hand, Ainette can't say the same, considering that Osamu's sudden disappearance leads her to despair. After all, he hadn't appeared since yesterday. However, just as she mentions him, he appears in the area being carried by an attractive woman. This drives the cleric from despair to madness. The mayor calls the dancer by the name Ash and asks what's going on, reminding her that he had told her not to show up there. Embarrassed, Ash explains that she just came to drop the man off and immediately leaves. Someone asks who that woman was, and the mayor explains that it's Ash, and she is known as the Witch of Tanako. When the transferred ones started arriving en masse and building the gambling hall, the villagers didn't have the power to stop them, but Ash did. She alone won the favor of the fallen transferred ones and opened a bar next to the casino, leading the villagers to see her as siding with the invaders. Additionally, being a mysterious woman who lived on the outskirts of town, no one knows about her origin or age. The mayor says he left her alone because she seemed harmless, but the truth is that Ash is a trickster who earned a fortune by enchanting the transferred ones with her drinks and dances. For this reason, the villagers began calling her the treacherous witch. Yamada then comments that Ash should face a fair trial for allying with evil to make money, and the mayor thanks them for the offered help, asking that the village be saved once and for all. The next morning, Ainette has to chase Osamu through the town once again, as the battle against the transferred ones is about to begin. Moreover, he doesn't remember agreeing to such dangerous work. What he really needs, according to him, is the peace and tranquility that the bar offered. The Ishe insists on bringing her friend back, but Yamada pulls her aside and claims that the writer has already been bewitched by the witch. But once the evil that plagues this village is destroyed, those affected will return to their natural state. Arriving at the bar, Osamu thanks Ash because, according to him, it was thanks to her that he momentarily forgot about his painful life and allowed himself to dream. The woman is pleased to have been useful, but warns him that she's called a witch by the villagers due to behaviors like the previous nights. Jokingly, she asks not to be blamed if she ruins the writer's life, but he says that's exactly what he wants. Amused by the man's eccentric posture, Ash offers a toast so that the spirit of the world tree may grant protection to Osamu's painful life. He asks her what the story is about the tree's spirit, and she tells him that, according to legend, when the spirit of the world tree descends, the wishes of the weak and sick will be granted, and they will be saved. Therefore, she advises Osamu to ask for the tree's blessing to ease his pain. He then questions if she herself doesn't wish to be saved because he noticed the previous night that her dance was beautiful, delicate, and above all, full of sadness. Caught off guard, Ash struggles, but suddenly several customers enter, eager to drink, and among them is a transferred one demanding money from some guys who owe him. But they spent their payment at the gambling hall. He assures them that if it's not paid today, he'll bury the 3 debtors in the desert with his powerful antlion ability. After scaring the men, the enforcer asks the boss if they should relocate the casino since the company's profits have dropped significantly due to the recent lack of fools like those. Even so, the boss hopes to attract people from the other side of the bridge, confident that showing them the joy of gambling and the analgesic leaves of the world tree will bring them all to Tanako. While Ash serves drinks to the two, she reminds them that they promised to keep the games only for the transferred ones and leave the villagers alone. However, the businessman states that business is business and that the bar owner herself will profit from the increase in people. However, Ash says she doesn't care about the money. She even pays a fee specifically for the transferred ones to keep the locals out of it. Ignoring the merchant, the boss orders Sabu, his subordinate, to kidnap some people and make them smoke some leaves as a test. Ash tries to stop the man, but Sabu pushes her aside, and at that moment, Osamu intervenes to help, stating that in the world he comes from, people don't call women like Ash witches, and in his opinion, these women are actually called angels. Outside, a loud rumble can be heard, and the casino's statue head nearly falls on the bandits. Sabu runs to the gambling hall and sees the place destroyed, with a group standing in front of the wreckage. As the transferred ones arrive, Yamada advances and denounces the cheaters and the witch working with them. With his sword in hand, he declares that it's time for punishment. Sabu sends his men after the knight, but Osamu arrives just in time and draws everyone's attention. He says that Yamada ruined the pleasant dreams the writer was having, and he hates people like Yamada, who shout grand things as if they were the heroes of the world. Yamada responds that he doesn't have time for a lunatic like him who dishonors the mission they came to carry out. The writer sits down and says that no random sermon will change his life and that he has never respected anyone who treated him that way. Then, Yamada simply tells him to watch the law being enforced before his eyes. Without delay, he uses his judgment of justice ability against the transferred ones, forcing the criminals to retreat. The villagers celebrate the victory, but they still see Ash as a traitor who worked with the transferred ones. Yamada tries to argue that the woman regretted her actions, but the villagers are not interested in forgiving the so-called witch and expel her from the town. Sensei intervenes and tells them that this woman fought alone to protect the place, driving away those troublemakers every night to keep them under control and prevent the locals from being harmed by their anger and greed. Even so, the villagers don't believe his story, and Ash ends up leaving. Yamada asks the writer if he knew this would happen, to which he replies that the line between good and evil is very thin. But even so, some people prefer to live under the illusion that they are always good. And before they realize it, evil slowly spreads and drives out true love, without anyone noticing, right under their noses. And in the end, the village of Tanako expelled its own protector. After saying all this, he leaves the town along with his group. What a shame for Ash. I confess I'm jokerizing with everything that happened, he comments. Then, the mayor appears and celebrates the fact that the world tree has been saved, as it will become healthy again, and they will be able to sell the sedative leaves on their own now that the invaders have been expelled. He even offers Yamada 10% of the profits from the sales if he agrees to be Tanako's bodyguard. Immediately, the transferred hero kneels down and remembers Sensei's words about how thin the line between good and evil is, and then questions what he has just done. Meanwhile, Tama comments that the end of the story left a bitter taste in her mouth, and Ainet asks Sensei if he had figured all this out. He explains that not exactly, because despite what he said to Yamada, he is no different. After all, he couldn't save Ash either. Suddenly, the leaves of the Tree of Life begin to fall like rain, dry and dead, terrifying the villagers of Tanako. Behind Sensei, an intense light reveals a mysterious woman with long green hair, surprising even the apathetic Sensei, who immediately recognizes her as Ash. The woman thanks him for understanding her and wishes that he finds some peace in his life before departing. Suddenly, she disappears. She was the protective spirit. Sensei then feels a weight in his sleeve and discovers that his vial of sedatives is full again. He places a pill in his mouth and gains an ability called Infinite Calmness. That was this week's episode, my dear. Thank you for watching. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more anime recap videos like this one. Take care and see you next time.